probably a 5 or 6 or 7 day old chick. It had swallowed a piece of food. It had a really unusual loop of sinew, and it went over the tongue, and it swallowed the piece of food, but it was lassoed around the tongue, and so it couldn't swallow it, it couldn't cough it out, and it couldn't eat more food because it was the esophagus was blocked. And so somebody called and said it's dying because it couldn't stand up anymore. And so I went from my office in Boston at the time all the way out to Springfield and saw that I grabbed my climbing gear. We'd never figured out how we were going to get down to the site. It was on a 22nd floor window ledge, and the windows don't open on those buildings. So there was a 25th floor balcony, and again, a sort of an indication of how different things were. I went there and confirmed that yes, this bird's in trouble. And I asked the building manager, would you mind if I rappelled off the 25th floor ledge? Sure. So I go up to the 25th floor and tie off to the railing, and I had a helper, and it's a 360 plus foot building. I have 150 feet of rope. Not a problem. I don't need to go down to 2 stories. So I went down and got the bird, and Jumars, or these ascenders, you climb back up your rope, and so gear is simple but trustworthy, and took it to tops, and they were able to remove the piece. It gained a lot of weight, doubled its weight in like 8 days, and put it back in the box, and we were off to the races, but not realizing that if there's 2 chicks and mom comes in with a small warbler and feeds one and not the other, that's 40 calls on the phone that mom's not taking care of. There were a lot of trials and tribulations through all of this. You remember the tornado that went through Springfield? Look at that video. It went right dead center over the top of the nest site on the Memorial Bridge. They moved from the Monarch Place to the Memorial Bridge for a few years, and the parents survived the tornado passing over. So now they've essentially recovered. Mount Tom was the most famous peregrine nest site in the eastern United States because it was the source of more chicks for falconry than any other site and eggs for museums. I've read that there's nearly 200 peregrine falcon eggs in museums from Mount Tom. I'm not sure if that's true or not, but it was. And if you take their eggs early, and you want to, if you're going to blow eggs, you don't want embryos in them, they'll re-nest, like chickens will re-nest 3 or 4 times if you take them early enough. And so when we finally got a pair that came back and nested on Mount Tom, I called Tom Cade of the Peregrine Fund, and his response was, now I can die happy. And it was that much of an icon on the site. So now, this year, we're up to 41 nesting pairs. But by the way, the largest number we ever had in a year before DDT was 14. They're cliff nesters. We don't have a lot of cliffs. But when they started coming back, our cities started springing up with big bridges and skyscrapers and the Goliath crane, and so they started nesting on other kinds of sites. A little hard to nest on bare steel or concrete, and they often broke their eggs, so we would just put up a nest box with pea gravel. They bring not one single item to a nest. So they just make a depression in the soil or gravel on a cliff ledge, but with a box of pea gravel, it's beautiful. And so they have now nested at least 41 sites. I guarantee you there's nesting pairs out there we haven't found yet. And this pair, this photo exhibit is based on a pair that's not one of our really good pairs as far as success. They've nested 7 years and they've failed out of 4 of them, but they have attracted so much attention. They're so fascinating to watch. They've raised 9 chicks. The Custom House pair, 31 years, they've raised almost 90 chicks. So there's a huge, difference between pairs. Some of our pairs, it takes them several years to finally find a place that will work for them. The cliff there in Woburn is a little too wet some years, and so the eggs get flooded and the chicks get damp. But it's still a wonderful contribution. So I don't know how many we're going to end up eventually, but even in the state level, we've taken them from endangered to threatened. Now they're going to be species of special concern, our third category. We're still going to monitor them, still going to work with them. I'm not sure how much we'll be banning them. I'm retiring at the end of this year. So. But frankly, I miss being the person doing the rock work, the rappelling, or the tree work for the eagles and the climbing. I did a lot of that. I climbed that very first nest at Quabbin. Actually, we had 2 nests that day. We had two nests that first year. But we're not going to abandon peregrines, and the public is fascinated by them. This fall, anytime now, really, I don't know the schedule, but NOVA is going to have a program focused on peregrines and their flight capabilities. It's going to be focused on the nest site at the Chicago condominium. It's up 20 or so stories, and some out of England. And I'm on there. I don't know to what extent, but I did hear my voice on an advertisement. So do pay attention when NOVA comes on, because there'll be some wonderful photography, I'm sure. So, thank you.